about CE5 and extraterrestrial contact, download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.
Join your fellow Starseeds, Lightworkers, and Experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference, this July 15th to 18th. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, Secret Space Program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure Movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.
Holy crap.
I believe it was 5 separate craft. That's some straight UFO shit right there.
That's when I started seeing all of the lights and the contact that I've been witnessing.
I just kept filming and looking up at the sky, and it just started happening more frequently.
Look, what is that? What is that? What was that?
Watch the middle 2 CE3 on Skylight 1. Skylight 1 video on demand. Watch this channel. Look for it on Facebook. Skylight 1 video on demand. The middle part 2, the middle part 3. Subscribe for $3.99 today. Have an all-access pass to Skylight 1 channel. Skylight 1. Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Alien Strand Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Ledesma, and welcome to today's show. Hey, look like my screen went down just a little bit. Hey, I hope you guys are enjoying the day, man. We're just having such an amazing day today. It's been hot. It's been like really freaking hot, man. Ryan Keaton's out there. He's watching on YouTube. If you guys are watching tonight, you're watching on YouTube. We're live on Spreaker. We're live on Spotify, I believe, and iHeartRadio and all that good stuff that comes along with it. Now, we are live here on... what is this? YouTube? No, yes, we're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. And I'm glad that you guys are sticking around just to watch what's been going on lately in the background. Now, if you just saw that commercial at the very beginning, we do have a conference coming up with Mr. Brian Tseng. He's the one that's putting it all, him and his team are putting all this thing together. And, we're going to get him here on the show on pretty soon. We're here in a minute. But I just want to welcome everybody to Alien Strand Podcast. Thank you guys for watching tonight. And if you guys been on our Patreon, go check out our Patreon there on extras. You'll see a lot of good extra stuff I've been throwing out there for you guys. Of course, we got merch coming up, past podcasts. You got to go check these out. These are the really good ones. You can't miss it. Now, I released a podcast today. I had it on Patreon for about a week and a half or so for the Patreoners that pay monthly subscription to that. Thank you very much. So they were able to catch this podcast. Now I released it today on YouTube. All right. So you can now catch this podcast on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, click us a like and subscribe. That's all that I asked for, man. And you're getting a lot of good stuff for free. You can't beat that with a stick, right? What's free? Free, right? Also, all right. So tonight we're going to have this podcast, right? Excuse me. We're going to be talking to Mr. Brian Tseng, and we're going to be talking about disclosure. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that are happening in his background, things that he knows, people that he knows. And we're going to talk about disclosure, of course, UFOs, and a lot of different things out there that you guys want to know about. I do have a couple of slides tonight, not very many, but this was supposed to be an audio podcast, and it is audio live right now on Spreaker. Go check us out there if you're listening only. And please, subscribe to that channel too. I mean, that was free. Can't beat it with a stick. So, also, don't forget, get my book, CE5, Frequencies of Contact, $3.99. You can't beat it on Amazon Kindle, and you can actually get the paperback, right? Get the paperback version, and I think it's only like $9 at Barnes & Noble. But guess what? I'm getting into my books are finally coming in tomorrow. They got lost in the mail, in the snail mail, man. It happens. It does happen. So they contacted me today. All my books are coming in. And so what I'm going to do, right? If you guys share my podcast, this podcast tonight, if I see the one who shared this podcast the most, the one tonight, I'm going to give you a signed free book with my signature on it, your name on it as well, and a free gift that's going to go along with it. As long as you live within the United States, I can only give it into the United States for right now. Why? Because mail, it just costs a lot of money, man. But it's okay. I'll get some out to you guys out there in the other countries as well. So, but whoever does this the most for me, for us here, and for everything today, I will give you a signed copy of my book for free. All right. So don't forget a middle tetralogy. You know what? If you just saw the Skylight One commercial, right? So I just made another channel, not just Skylight One, but there's an actual channel that I'm making. I put together today, and it's actually live. Like you have Tubi TV, and you have those Pluto, where it has a bunch of channels. Well, we just added Skylight One to one of those. All right, and that got added today, Rand. So guess what? I'm going to be able to plug in commercials, things like that, into that channel that I had today, that I just built today. And, so if you guys want to if you have businesses out there, you wanted the commercial, I can get it out there, and this is going to reach out to millions of people out there. Right? So just reach out to me if you want to be a part of that as well. Right? I appreciate you guys. Now, for further ado, let's, you know what? I can't forget Alien Strand Disclosure Project, because there's no I in team. We all work together. Go check us out there, ASTP-UFO.com. Go check us out there and report your UFOs, report any stories you have. We'll be glad to take them for you. All right. So without further ado, let's get Mr. Brian Tseng on there. All right. Here we go. Let's get him on there now.
Hey, Donald. How are you doing, sir? Pleasure to be here.
All right, brother. Thank you for being on the show today. I know we were supposed to do just an audio, and I said, you know what? Well, we had a little bit of issues, but hey, let's just do video, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for accommodating me, because my cell signal here in northern Nevada isn't exactly the best, and so I figured it'd be much better production value for the audience out there if we could go over the computer. So thank you for that, sir. And then before I forget, the trailer you put together for our conference is amazing. I'm really stoked with that, and want to share that all over the place now. So thank you. I just added your Amazon book there on pre-order, because I go paperback. I'm a paper guy, not Kindle myself.
Right on.
And then I'm a subscriber already to your Skylight 1 production, but I didn't even know you had a Patreon. So
Yeah. We have Patreon too. So, we try to get as much disclosure out there to as many people as possible, right? So, what better avenues to use is social media is the best thing to do. And, we got channels that, social media, that platforms that some people really kind of frown upon. But you know what? It's just, we use it to get the information out. So we use everything, man. Everything you can think of, we have almost every platform. So, but anyway, let's talk a little bit about you, man, and let's tell everybody about Brian, and what you're about, man, and things that you know.
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay, so I'll try to give the nickel version on the normie life stuff, so I can get to the more fun woo stuff, if you will. And of course, disclosure, which is, nearest and dearest to my heart. I'm ABC, American born Chinese, from Pennsylvania and New Jersey areas growing up. Spent a lot of time at the New Jersey shore, if you will. And my father, we're kind of like a rags to riches immigrant family story, if you will, where during World War II, my dad's side in China with the revolution and all the, with Chiang Kai-shek and the capitalists on one side and the Mao and the communists on the other. My grandfather apparently was lined up with the Chiang Kai-shek crowd, lined up with the Office of Strategic Services. Guess later that became the CIA. But because he was with the Chiang Kai-shek crowd, he went from China to Taiwan and was able to get his side of the family, my father's side, to New York City.
Okay.
Mom's side, her father was like a Chinese chef, cook, and for the U.S. military when they were over in China. That got him from China to Hong Kong, and then from Hong Kong to the U.S., where he unfortunately died of tuberculosis complications and an allergic reaction on an operating table. So my mom grew up poor in Chinatown. Needless to say, my dad started a computer graphics chip company out of the basement of our house in New Hope and revolutionized the computer graphics field by introducing overclocking of computers first it was to graphics chips, and then later they did it apparently to motherboards and CPUs.
Wow.
He was doing it originally on GPUs to make his cards with the cheaper memory, like SRAM or SDRAM, I forget the difference. One was like half as the cost but ran half as fast, and he made his stuff run as fast as the stuff that cost twice as much by overclocking and other things. Wow. Needless to say, it put me and the other two Tseng sons in the enviable position of being able to do whatever we wanted. He put me through education at Occidental College, got a biochemistry degree, minor in economics, and I tried to go into the pharmaceutical field to do good with that. I quickly learned that it was mostly about making money off of people's disease. I'll just put it out there.
Right.
And so I went into medical advocacy instead, organizing physicians to fight medical denials, where we would take on insurance companies and hospital corporations. Oh, hey, Nancy. Great. Nancy Thames is here. She's going to be a presenter, by the way, on the main stage at our conference in Florida.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Yeah. I had her on a podcast, by the way. Great guest, man. I mean, she had some very cool stuff to say.
Excellent. Yeah, that's fulldisclosuremovement.org to find us there while I'm on the topic. But with that, I learned a lot of advocacy skills, if you will, and also to learn to look at the government and the coziness with corporations, be they for-profit or so-called nonprofits, with a very critical, perspective, because I found a lot of shadiness and shenanigans. And we're
Okay.
taking those skills and applying that to the Full Disclosure Now movement. Okay.
Right.
Basically, last summer with others, I co-organized something called the Montauk Adventure Tour. It
Okay.
was the 80th anniversary of the Philadelphia experiment,
Oh, wow.
which I'm sure your audience is familiar with how they took the USS Eldridge, a destroyer-class Navy ship, and put 2 Tesla coils, one on each end, activated it, and
Right.
then moved it through time and space and all that. Well,
Right.
off of that, they realized that they wanted to try applying that to further experimentation. They moved that to Brookhaven National Labs on Long Island, New York.
Right.
And off of that, they went to Camp Hero on the east end of Long Island. And they basically, just like the show Stranger Things, it was
Right.
originally going to be called the Montauk Project, but they were told apparently to change the name, so it's now Stranger Things.
Right.
You know, or a little bit odd in it, isn't it? If they were to put it in England, as the meme goes.
Yeah.
But needless to say, there were about 23 or 4 or so of us on that tour. I was there as an organizer, not as a fanboy, but I was there with many of the others were, if not there to document the tour, they were there as actual survivors of the Montauk projects. There were
Wow.
multiple within there. And,
So
you know, they're,
Didn't they? They did some kind of experiments on people inside of there.
boy, did they do experiments on there. So what they did is they took the Operation Paperclip Nazis through the rat lines after World War II, came
Okay.
here. People like Dr. Joseph Mangala, who I understand adopted the name of Dr. Green.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who may be genetic clones or children or offspring of his running around that look a little bit like him, if you will.
Wow.
And people, you know, they'll admit to it. They'll say that. And they were basically taking children in particular because they were utilizing something known as the Montauk Trip Chair. And I believe this was like an alien, this was like a chair, like a pilot chair taken out of a UFO. And
Oh,
these
wow.
were the Greys. And this might have been at one of the 3 crash sites around the Roswell area. A lot of people don't know it, but apparently there were multiple crash sites. It wasn't just the one at Roswell. And this chair, they found that only children were effective in being able to do things like open up portals in time and space. So where you see depicted in Stranger Things, 11 is opening up a gateway to the Upside Down, a not very fun place. These bad dark elements, some people call them the KM or Khazarian Mafia, if you will. They are they're basically running these experiments to put us all onto a negative timeline. So I'm
Oh, wow.
sure your viewers are familiar with the Mandela effect.
Yes. Yes.
And I now say 100% in my understanding that is real. As a community organizer, I used to read about and study about and cry about and teach about and watch movies about how Nelson Mandela, as a young leader in the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, was jailed, imprisoned in Robben Island for
Right.
about 26 years, treated poorly, and then died.
And that's weird though, man, because I mean, I was growing up as a kid. I was watching this on TV. I would see him on TV, things like that. And then you saw him out of prison, right?
He became
saw it.
president.
Became president. Yeah, I saw all that, right? And all of a sudden, he dies in prison. I'm like,
The first way I learned about it, him being alive, was there was on TV, there was a trailer for a movie with starring Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela.
I remember
and,
that. Mhm.
Matt Damon is some rugby team captain for South Africa, and they go to some national championship and win or international championship and win rugby under the inspiration of Nelson Mandela's presidency. It's like, what? Like, wait a second. And so, yeah, they don't call it the Mandela effect for nothing. And so a lot of people attribute CERN to the Mandela effect. I attribute it more to the Mandela Project. because of the nature of the time travel missions that people like Arkeem Ra, my good friend, ran along with other people. And we could go more into that as well. And then also, I would say, CERN is probably more about opening up portals and gateways to dark places to allow nasty beings, as you see in the Upside Down. That's where I would say CERN is more. But that's my personal opinion. I can't even say analysis at that point, but that's what I personally think.
Wow. And do you think that what they're doing or what they did back then, I mean, there was a lot of evidence of the follow through, right? That they did follow through. These things did happen. Of course, there was survivors, right, that got away, correct? And then they were able to tell this story. And then I heard that some of the kids also were actually killed off, right? They did that.
So first off, and John Whitberg, another survivor of the Montauk Project, he's coming out with a book soon. But I know in his book, he quotes it's like upwards from like minimum of like 300,000 kids. And I'm going to go into these numbers and how they can get so staggering to even as high as over 1 million.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And so number one, there were time travel elements in this. Where they apparently were using time bubble technology to put the Montauk or the Camp Hero base on the east end of Long Island in a time bubble. So they were really running it much longer than what we here experienced in linear time, if you will.
Wow.
Okay. And then also there were Montauk projects, not just literally Montauk, New York at Camp Hero, but apparently under the Presidio, the decommissioned Army base in San Francisco, where I lived for 20 years and fled after the advent of the scamdemic. A voice in the sky, in my higher self or source, if you will, told me, get out of San Francisco, and I did. And it's the best decision I ever made, one of.
Good.
And but these survivors are here. And not only are they here, there are people doing remote viewing or blind scientific remote viewing, if you will, to confirm the testimonies of these survivors, and they're hitting bingo. So the Farsight Institute with Tony Rodriguez's book, they did blind remote viewing on his book Series Colony Cavalier, and they confirmed him. And then exactly what Tony Rodriguez is saying is confirmed by what Daryl James, who went into it via the U.S. Navy, is confirmed by what people like Penny Bradley, Arkeem Ra, we're going to find Alondra Markman, and many, many other people. And it's like they're coming out of the woodwork now, and I'd say there are going to be multiple reasons for that. One is I do believe that the forces of darkness, if you will, in the background, they're trying everything they can to push us onto a negative timeline, and they are failing. Not only are they failing, they're dying, they're being rounded up, they're being brought to justice, thank God.
Yeah.
I do believe this is happening. I believe there are proofs out there, and use your discernment, folks, okay? But there are ways that you can determine that this is happening. Hold on a second, let me yell. Like I'm going to give my favorite one, John McCain, going around with an ankle brace or a leg brace on like his left leg for months and months and months, and then deciding one day to swap it to his right leg. And then a reporter asked him why he swapped legs, for the ankle brace. And he said, well, I got tired of wearing it on my left leg, and I joke about this every chance I get. You don't switch, leg braces, because you got tired of wearing it on the one leg.
Right. Wow. So I mean, so that story is pretty dark and deep, right? I mean, and then you're going to be presenting that at the conference that's going to be coming up here soon. And how many people you have talking about that? It's going to be on that conference.
Yeah. Are we able to? Can I do a screen share? I'll present my screen, and we're going to have about 35 or so presenters, and then we're also going to have a healers and psychics gallery. Okay. And so here's my screen. I've got the website up, at fulldisclosuremovement.org. And, it's coming up July 15th to 18th. And we're paired up with a wonderful sister event at the beach called Day of Being Beach Weekend. Or Day of Being 4.0, rather. I call it the Beach Weekend because it's actually Saturday and Sunday, leading into our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of our conference.
Okay.
And, I mentioned Penny Bradley. In addition to the Montauk Project, where they were running time travel missions, or offshoot or other programs that are rather affiliated, or where they share these exploited children who are then put into clone bodies and given alters, if you will, assassin alters, sex slave alters, couriers, psychic assassins, soldiers, if you will. Here's Tony Rodriguez with his book. We've got the people who've been reporting on this since the 90s in some cases, such as Miles Johnston of the Basis Project out of the UK, and then Carrie Cassidy here in the US with Project Camelot. And I mentioned remote viewers. Yeme Janae will be there, representing the Farsight Institute.
Wow.
And then Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. She does amazing work on not just super soldier stuff. And Farsight also is very varied in their blind remote viewing targets, as is Jessica. And she tends also to focus, obviously, on the cryptids.
She's got a podcast, right? She's got a podcast too?
Yeah, a YouTube channel, and then she's on Spaced Out Radio as well.
Right.
And then she appears on multiple other platforms, as a lot of us do. And, it's so great, Donald, to be with you here, just giving shout outs to all of our community out there. I've only been in part of the community, if you will, for like the last year and a half now, and it is very close knit. You're going to find.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's Nancy.
Yep. Here's Nancy Thames. She's going to be there on the main stage presenting. Drago Reed was a Kruger super soldier, and so if you go to websites like the ACIO .org, I believe it is, they have information on some of these more of what we call the secret space program groups. So they're not involved so much as messing with our timelines here on Earth as a Montauk Project and whatever it became, because it kind of ended, if you will, in name, and then from what I understand moved on.
I was reading a story, man, about this guy. He's got a book out, actually. I think it's on Kindle Books. It's one of the free ones out there, but he's got a story that he was this soldier, man, in his 20s, and they had him to kind of where he was they had him under some mind control, man, and he became some soldier that went to Mars, and then he fought battles over there, and he was going to different planets fighting these extraterrestrials or whatever they are over there. But he was having these battles, major battles with these things, and then he would be back on planet, right? And I've been reading his book back and forth, but it's one of those things, man. For a lot of people, I know it's hard to grasp just those stories, but I know that these people tell it wholeheartedly. You know what I mean? I mean, they got details.
Let me put it in context. Let me put it in context for everyone, because the more description, detail, historical documented evidence we can bring to bear, the less woo this is. Okay. And so, I think the Philadelphia experiment is pretty well, documented. Camp Hero there is well documented. A lot of the Montauk Project stuff is well documented. When you get to things like the Secret Space Program and Solar Warden, of course, we've got Gary McKinnon, who was a hacker in the 90s. And then the U.S. decided against extraditing him from the UK because if they did that and put him on trial, then they'd get to go to Discovery. And then it seemed like, okay, now they're going to bust out. What is this USS Hillenketter flying around in space as a space carrier, And so basically, this brings us to the exopolitics of this. And I'll give a shout out here to Dr. Michael Sala, who has been reporting on this for decades now. obviously, and this is why we're doing the Full Disclosure Now movement and this conference and all these efforts, is we're not alone. And as long as we're still arguing with each other, if the earth is flat, pardon my French, or ETs, much less intelligent ETs, exist, we're never going to get anywhere. Because the sad, ugly, sick reality is that there are negative ETs and positive, but unfortunately, groups within our government, as you'll see depicted in the X-Files, are in bed with negative ET factions for their own nefarious purposes to enslave the rest of us. And yeah, I know it's sad to say, but there are people and groups of people who would sell all of us out and sell their own souls to the extent that you supposedly, can or can't do that, for power, money, glory, sex, greed, fame, whatever. And because of that, I'll give one of the main factions up to now, the baddies, and people like David Icke and David Wilcock. They've talked about the Alpha Draconians. So is Alex Collier, by the way. And these people aren't coming out of the woodwork for nothing, and especially back in the 80s, and then getting not just character assassinated for the three I just mentioned, but Phil Schneider literally being assassinated.
Oh yeah, poor guy.
Like shot twice in the back of the head and piano wire or whatever, but ruled suicide. Whatever. I don't know that was exact details, but that's pretty much
I saw the pictures. I saw the pictures.
Really? Yeah, he didn't do that to himself, right?
Yeah.
Phil Schneider didn't do that to himself, right? So, I was talking about the documented evidence, and the reason why it's so important is the money that's going to this. The first of all, the children and the people who, now that they're past childhood, the reason why some of these people are still alive is apparently to this day, with time travel, with consciousness kidnapping and all this, and with the value that some of these people, even now that they're grown up, they're no longer children, they are very valuable still to these programs. And so they're kept alive for that reason in some of these cases. And then some of them are killed off, even if they do make it this far to tell their tale. It might not be for long. And so I say on the one hand to all the survivors, get your testimonies out there as much as you can, as fast as you can, as best as you can, and that will help you and the rest of us. And then to all of you on the wrong side of the fence, the baddies, if you will, taking orders from the wrong side, or, even if you're in the wrong, you're fine, you were born into it, you're the bloodline. It's never too late for you to do the right thing. You've got a lot of knowledge. You can bring value and perhaps win some clemency for yourself.
Right.
And then there's also universal law, of course, where there's karma. And if you want to mitigate all this bad negative karma you've accumulated, here's a good chance, my friends.
Well, I mean, that's why it's hard for people to come up front, and it's even with the extraterrestrial visitations and things like that, right? People get stigmatized, right? Automatically, you're stigmatized. Bam, bam, bam. You're full of crap or whatever, right? But and then I was just posting pictures of PTSD, agoraphobia, where you get. These people went through this already, right? They went through all these things, and then they finally decide to open up and say, you know what? I'm done. I'm tired of running. I'm going to go ahead and say it like it is. I'm going to tell the truth, right? And then when they do, it's hard for them to pick and choose exactly who they're going to tell it to without having somebody not believe in what they're trying to say, right? It's just like I was talking earlier on my podcast a while ago, that I said, if when you talk to somebody, you want to tell them your story, and then you start, man, I think I got abducted, and then I went inside this ship, right? They beam me up. So as soon as you start saying things like that, people will automatically just start looking at you funny, right? Some people, right?
Well, this is what brings us to a paradigm shift, Donald. That's the old ways. You go to your brother, your sister, your mom, or your dad, and or your neighbor, and they shake their heads, and they go around telling everyone you're crazy behind your back. And that's no fun, obviously.
Right.
These days, we have something called the internet, and we can find each other and share our testimonies. And the more we do so, the less crazy this is sounding. The more therapists out there who are putting people under hypnotic regression therapy and they're getting the same testimonies over and over. And after a while, even the so-called normies are looking up in the sky and they're seeing things flying around, and they could try to pawn it off as, oh, that's just AI, but these videos, and they're very good documented videos over and over the years that are out there. They're not hard to find. It's like someone was joking on Facebook the other day that,
Right.
the only people anymore who make fun of conspiracy theorists are people who don't know how to read.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's just horrible, and it's unfortunate that people are like that. But it's like groups like this, and have you noticed, Brian, for the past, I'm going to say, I started podcasting about 6 years ago, right? When I first started, it wasn't as heavy in podcasting and UFO until the whistleblowers came out, right? And then once the whistleblowers came out, these that were actually military people, right? And they were retired or whatever, or they wanted to tell what happened. And as soon as they did that, as soon as they did that, right? Grush as well. And they said, okay, now we're going to believe you. Now people started believing because these guys they're up there in rank, right? So they're not crazy, right? So it's like, why would they say something like this? And then all of a sudden the floodgates open up and here comes everybody into ufology, aliens, extraterrestrials, and everything else that comes with it, right? And because this is exactly what's been coming out, and then the dark money, right? And everything that's, do you know this, that our own government has been, I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it, that, you know how you get audited? We've failed 6 audits in a row. Right. So let's say,
read their audits, they say they don't even bother. It's like they give up.
Exactly.
Like there's so much lost money, they don't even.
So what happens if they audit you and you screw up, maybe let's just say $1,000, right? And if you don't have that money, guess what happens? You go to jail. And we got millions of black money out there that don't know where it's at.
That's the control system. You're hitting it on the head, like right here on the screen for all of our listeners in radio land there who aren't visual to this. It looks like this gray is one of the more negatively oriented or service to self grays, known as the Maitra. Okay, right. These grays, just from the depiction, they look like what are basically grays that were hybridized with reptilian DNA, and they were nasty, and then they themselves were able to break away from the Alpha Draconians. And then the reason why a lot of people are abducted by grays is because the grays themselves are either abducting people, or they're in the employ of groups like the Alpha Draconian Empire to abduct people for their own nefarious purposes. Things like breeding people to be quote unquote super soldiers for these programs, or breeding people who have specific genetic attributes that they really like that maybe are yummy.
Right.
And I hate to say this, but this is one of the things that Audrey Walters will be discussing at our conference, is how a lot of these negative or these hybridization programs, even though the contactee experiencers are told, oh, you're going to have hybrid children with us, and you're never going to see them like ever, except to help nurture them to survive past adolescence.
Right.
It turns out that a lot of their children are being taken for nefarious purposes and not for the nice, happy, shiny things they're being told. And I'm not going to say that's for all contactees and hybridization programs by any means, but I'm going to say that it's probably going to be a lot more than people realize or want to believe.
Well, now that we're on the subject of that, what are your thoughts about the alien implants? What they have in people to make, to come back for them, or just keep on taking the eggs of the females and taking sperm from males, and then of course, like you said, later they show them the kids once they're like mid-grown or whatever, and then you're never going to see them again. But hey, this is what they look like now. They're a part of you. Goodbye, sayonara. We'll see you later. I won't, whatever. And it leaves you with an empty space, like, right? I'm a father. I got 5 kids. Even if I had a weird, an alien one or something, I would kind of feel bad about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened? Where are they? Are they thinking things like that?
This is the exact reason for full disclosure, because this is still ongoing. It's got to stop. Just like you got on the screen up here, these very clear implants. Yeah, there are a lot of people with different implants, and they're not always physical. Sometimes apparently there are also etheric implants as well.
Right.
That and because some of these ETs are occupying higher vibrational densities, if you will, then that's where you can get into like different levels of being. We're multidimensional beings.
Right. Wow. Well, I was actually doing, I've been doing some research and stuff. And lately, a couple of my stories that I've noticed that these implants that lately they've been putting it up the nostril or behind the ear, somewhere close to the mental lobe right area, to where they can control your mind or actually read you a little bit better, right? I mean, to me, that makes more sense in these areas than in your back or in your leg or whatever. But I mean, I guess each species is a little different.
Yeah, well, I like to say to people, when you're dealing with ET level technology, where these civilizations are thousands of years, millions of years perhaps old, your all bets are off. And then once you throw time travel into the mix, all bets are definitely off. And then once they're interacting with each other, so the truth is crazier than fiction.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, and that's of course what your conference is going to be. It's going to be a 3-day conference, correct?
4 days, 4 days and nights.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And each night we're going to have a special event dinner. We're going to have like a humorous Ask Me Anything panel for one of the dinners. Another one's going to be a panel of remote viewers and the SSPers, secret space programmers themselves, with the people who remote viewed them and what that was like. The last night is going to be an intergalactic and inner Earth costume dinner and ball.
Nice.
Which is fun. That's your blowout bash. And then first night dinner is going to be a fundraiser to pay for the 501c3 foundation, so we can have a Full Disclosure Now foundation to support the survivors out there in the field, and have support come in and go directly to these survivors. Because, most of the people who survive these programs have been targeted individuals, meaning the government, the deep state, does not want these people financially happy and healthy, going around telling their stories. They much rather these people, kept on the edge of survival and going to the mental asylum before they get to see testimony in the light of day.
Right.
And so, you were mentioning a lot of these survivors. Not only is there the stigma, the giggle factor you get to deal with of, hey, I was taken away in the middle of the night by, a black triangle and floating in the sky, for example. There's for a lot of these people, their memories were wiped and they were put under MK Ultra mind control programming, which includes suicide programming or Omega programming, which you're programmed to self-destruct in some situations before you reveal the secrets of these programs. And it's so bad that you're programmed not only to take yourself out, you're programmed to take out everyone that you told about.
Wow.
So like your therapist, for example. Okay. And so we've seen those over the years of, these killings that seem odd. And then you realize, oh, gee, that's weird. They live near an Air Force base and they had the same psychiatrist. You know what I mean? It gets like that.
Yeah.
For example, Saran had the same Air Force psychiatrist as, I forget his name, Timothy Leary or someone. I'm messing that up, but there are these connections out there to be found. But they're also trying to get past screen memories. They're trying to recover memories, and then they're trying to share these fractured memories with people that don't even make sense a lot of times to themselves. But here we are 20, 30 years later, and a lot of this programming is now breaking down because they're becoming older, they're more sovereign and sentient, and understand, good versus bad and not just what they were programmed to learn and believe. And with that, and then like I said, with I think some rounding up the bad guys, it's allowing people to kind of come up and testify without getting whack-a-mole. And then
yeah, I mean, it's more in the open now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more in the open now, so I mean, does that stuff still exist? Probably does. If you get a little too close, you know what I mean? And believe me, it's out there as far as like them kind of shutting you down here and there or whatever. I mean, it's happened to me a couple of times. You know what I mean? That's when I know that, I've struck a nerve, right? And and that's, I'm not going to say it's scary, because it's not scary for me, but I just, there's other avenues of getting the information out to people as much as possible, right? And that's what you guys are going to be doing in the conference. And guess what? You guys get to show my movie there, right?
That's right. And, in fact, I want to show that movie, and then if you have other films you'd like us to show, we can have like, because I can have like an AV set up, because I want as many people to get exposure to your content, as possible.
Right.
Right. While we're there, and it's.
And I just may be there. You know what I mean? I was talking to you earlier, so
we'll make it happen.
I have a feeling I'm going to be there. I do want to be there, and I want to help. I want to represent, and that's what this podcast is about today: is helping and getting this information out to as many people as possible. Now, if guys, I can't put your comments for some reason. StreamYard is glitching, and I'm not be able to put your comments on there for some reason. I didn't see them, and it's not letting Facebook comments go through. But I do, I will go back and look at your comments, and we'll react to. We are going to throw links to the actual the convention. We're going to throw the links to that. We're going to throw links to everything as far as what we're talking about today on the podcast. Brian, is there anything else you want to kind of add to this before we close out?
I just, once again, Donald, thank you for having me on here and letting people, know, please go to the website. We've got a lot of, not only, the presenters. I want to give a shout out to, I know Contacting the Desert is going on, or they're about to, and then the Rebels of Disclosure Conference by our good friends Tyler Koala and Aaron Kuhn of Journey to Truth. They're going to be coming up in May in Grafton, Illinois, and then of course our event in July. And there's a real spirit of camaraderie out there. Ryan Keaton, I hope you go. Please go to our website. We've got the early bird tickets are still up there. If you get the VIP passes, that includes 3 out of the 4 dinners, with the meals. Of course, and
he's actually in the film that you're going to show. So he's actually
cool.
The people in the film. Yep.
Well, then and then if you want to present, and I'll be sure to introduce you. It's just such an amazing community to have there. I know Nancy's excited. Nancy Thames there, and so this is especially after people were cooped up for several years after the scamdemic, and then. I think with us getting past the giggle factor, I think a lot of people are waking up to the reality of, some of the biological experimentation going on worldwide.
Right.
So we're going to get our Star Trek future. And the way we're going to do that is from the bottom up, pushing for all the people with testimonies out there to name names. Name who hurt you in the programs and who's still stuck in the programs and needs to be freed, and name all the awesome, wonderful technologies that is being hoarded from us collectively. And we're going to get there, people.
Right on, man. And that's the way to do it through these conventions that you're having. And it's I'm glad you guys put it together, and I'm glad I'm kind of involved in it. So I'm trying to help as much as possible, and we're going to keep pushing to get a lot of disclosure out there, and not just for extraterrestrials, but for actually the innocent people that got hurt in the process as well. Because if you really look at it, through all this disclosure, someone got hurt in the process, right? Whether it's physically, mentally, or anything else, or spiritually, even at that, because you can actually be hurt in that sense too. But I hope that it helps them, and I hope it helps others, and help fix this problem that we have, unfortunately, with the world today.
Donald, this affects all of us so much more than people want to realize. When you look at the Montauk Project, part of it with that SAGE radar tower, they were also experimenting early on with beaming sound and frequency and energy at people to cause effects, including killing them, putting them to sleep, making them angry, whatnot. And guess what we're surrounded by when you look at all these towers all over the place on our landscape, or what we're holding in our hands? Yeah, it's very pertinent. So,
It is. But Brian, thank you, brother Brian, for being on the show today. I appreciate you, man. And like I said, can you give us that website again so people can know where to go to?
Absolutely. FullDisclosureMovement.org. It's all one word.
Okay. They can find you on Facebook and everywhere else. Where can people find you?
Yeah. And what I request is, I'm wearing a Willy Wonka top hat in my profile picture, Brian Tseng, right there on Facebook, the dumpster fire platform that's censoring everyone that it is. Please, when you send me a friend request, if you can, also include a message about seeing me here on Donald's show, Alien Strand podcast. And if you have a hankering, for how you would like to get involved with the Full Disclosure movement, this is a movement where it's not just sit back and relax. You too can get involved, my friends. So, please do so.
Right on, brother. Right on, man. Well, keep doing you, man. Keep doing the best that you can out there. We're going to support you 150%, and we're going to keep on pushing people that way so they can go. And guess what? We're going to be there. I think I'm going to be there for sure. So, but again, thank you, brother, for being on the show today, and we'll catch you on another one. If any updates up or anything like that, we have some more to talk about. We'll bring you back on the show. I know you're going to be coming back on the show, so we'll get you back on another one. And I'll put links to the show to everywhere where they can find Brian. They can find the Full Disclosure Project. They can find everything there. I'm going to put links to everything. All right. So hey man, love you, man. Have a good day, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Cheers, everybody.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Man, he gave a lot of information on what's happening out there, in the world, and what's been happening, since the beginning of a lot of these projects began, right? I'm talking about underground stuff, right? Philadelphia Experiment, Montauk. He brought all that to life and was able to, share with you a small part of it. But he will be explaining this during the conference too. He was going to be speaking up there as well as Nancy and all the people he presented here today on the podcast. So, if you guys enjoyed today's podcast, I appreciate it. Like and share, do all that good stuff that comes along with it. We're live on X right now. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook, but just on my page and Alien Strand Podcast. For some reason, StreamYard don't like the groups. I don't know why. But it's okay. All right, guys. Until then, we'll catch you guys on the next one. You guys have yourselves a good day. Have yourselves a good evening. And have yourselves a good night. 5 frequencies of contact. Amazon Kindle. Go get yourself one. Let's
What's up, guys? This is Mike Beavers from The Theory, and you are listening to Alien Strand Podcast, the dopest UFO alien podcast out there. And if you want to find out about me, just go on YouTube and search UFOs over UFO or The Theory with Mike Beavers. Stay tuned, guys.
Join your fellow Starseeds, Lightworkers, and Experiencers at the 2024 Full Disclosure Now Conference, this July 15th to 18th. This conference will be a fun and positively life-changing experience for so many. In addition to 4 days and nights of presentations, there will be special event dinners, dancing, fun time on the beach, UFO night watch tours, film screenings, vendors, and more at the lovely Serrata Beach Resort on St. Pete Beach, Florida. Over 34 Montauk Project survivors, secret space program whistleblowers, ET contactees, and psychic healers will be presenting in the name of the Full Disclosure movement. The truth must be revealed if we're all to achieve our Star Trek future here and now. Get your event passes and book your stay now at fulldisclosuremovement.org.
You want to learn about CE5, an extraterrestrial contact? Download my new book, now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and 14 other platforms. Book authored by Donald Ledesma. CE5, Frequencies of Contact.